In the case of Ohio versus George Wagner IV, we are now in the third day of the state's case. They say that the defendant, his brother Jake, and both of their parents are responsible for the deaths of 8 members of the Roden family who were brutally murdered in April of 2016. Today, the jury heard from law enforcement experts about the gruesome crime scenes around Pike County, Ohio, where the 8 victims were discovered. Many of them shot to death multiple times at close range while they slept. Joining me now, Joy Lim-Nakrin, our Court TV legal correspondent, is live in Pike County, Ohio tonight, to give us the latest from the courtroom today. Joy, always great to be on with you. I understand that today contains some really emotional testimony from law enforcement witnesses.
Right, and very interesting that the state seemed to be quite intentional in drawing out the more emotional elements regarding this crime. I know that on Court TV we discussed that the family members, the victims' loved ones, in their testimony there was not a lot of emotion drawn out intentionally by the state. But today the prosecution asked about specific details such as the mother-child relationship and Hannah Hazel Gilly, as well as Hannah Mae Roden, possibly breastfeeding at the time that they were killed. Let's listen to this testimony from investigator Timothy Dickerson.
And you'd indicated that you found the baby in the back bedroom, and there was a young female subject deceased at that time there too.
Yes.
And did you ever learn her identity?
Yes, it was Hannah Mae.
And would you describe any injuries that you would have seen on her at the time?
Yeah, she appeared to have been shot as well in the front.
What condition was the little baby in?
The baby was laying next to Hannah, right up against her stomach area and her breast.
Okay, not that you sound really morbid or anything like that. Was there any evidence that she may have been breastfeeding, anything like that?
Her breast was exposed and the baby was right there, so it could be.
So really, that's tough detail for this mostly female jury. I could see that they appeared moved emotionally, and they were kind of studying the witness. They were looking over at the Roden family during a lot of this testimony, and also during the testimony of investigator Dickerson, as well as the other law enforcement officials. Some very graphic images were introduced, really corresponding with the graphic detail that we're hearing them describe.
Joy, you know, all of this testimony is hard to listen to because of the horrific nature of the devastation of an entire family of 8. But for some reason, that was some of the hardest testimony for me to hear, that she was apparently nursing the baby. What was the reaction in the gallery today in court?
Yeah, so the Roden family, I observed many of them in tears during today's testimony. In fact, one member of the Roden family appeared to be a woman in her 30s to 40s. She just had so much trouble kind of maintaining her composure. She ended up leaving the courtroom, but certainly was a very tough day, particularly when images of Chris Roden Jr., who was just 16 years old, when images of his body were shown, and the gunshot wound to the back of his head. It seemed very difficult for the Roden family, and I saw the jurors looking to the Roden family to see their reaction, and then again looking back at the witness and looking at attorneys as well, and they really seemed to be very attentive, taking everything in.
Yeah, what a case. What about cross-examination? We know that attorney Timothy Dickerson did cross-examine. Tell us your highlights from that, please.
Yeah, so remember even yesterday we discussed some of the themes that we observed during cross-examination by the defense. We saw some of those themes carry over today. For instance, a lot of questioning about some of the illegal activities that may have been going on at the Roden property, including an apparent cockfighting ring and an apparent marijuana growth operation. In fact, during the testimony of Deputy Adam Ball, he actually was questioned about the marijuana growth operation, and he described it as, quote, extensive. And when the defense asked exactly how many plants there were in the what appeared to be a marijuana growing facility, he answered, quote, the building was full of marijuana. Furthermore, during cross-examination of investigator Dickerson, it seemed that there was an attempt to undermine his credibility by kind of challenging his knowledge on what should be details that one would imagine a man in his position should know, such as where the county boundary might lie. So let's listen to that part of cross-examination.
Do you know from that position where the boundary lines are?
I know from my position that I have been told in the past that the boundary is in Pike County.
And have you independently looked into that to verify that for yourself?
I have not had any occasion to have to verify that.
No further questions.
Any redirect?
Yeah, so Judge Ashley, you know, it does seem that there might be a little bit of an attempt to undermine that witness's credibility, but I also wondered if perhaps the defense was trying to raise an issue of venue. You know, did the crime actually happen in Pike County?
You raised such a good point, Joy, because you're right. That's part of the prosecution's job, to prove every element, which does include that there's proper venue, that the crime occurred in that county. So excellent point. And also that you raised about the marijuana and growing. And I'm not saying the defense is going to do this, but Joy, I'd just love to ask you quickly if you have any insight as to whether or not there's any type of finger pointing at George didn't do this, he wasn't involved. The rest of the family, just like opening, the rest of the family was involved in all of that. But this defendant, George Wagner, was not.
You know, I think that is probably a good hunch, Judge Ashley, and you know, just like you, I'm kind of just following what the defense has been doing, looking for kind of patterns and trying to pick up on themes and trying to just kind of guess, frankly, where they're going and where they're going to actually take it in closing arguments. But I think that's a very good hunch.
Well, it'll be interesting to see. Joy Lynn Macron, of course, thank you so much for joining us.